Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Truth Table, episode 65. I have four candidates on the Truth Table tonight for the PPC party. Two were on the February 5th show, episode 49, Peyman Askari and Brian Everaert. So they have come back. Now, Peyman Askari also has a podcast in lay terms. He represents West Vancouver's Sunshine Coast and Sea to Sky Country in Vancouver. So if you live in that area or know someone that lives in that area, send them this video so they can get to know their candidate a little better and the platform they represent. Also, Brian Everaert, who's a PPC candidate in Sarnia, Lambton, and Bkejwanong. I don't know how to say that. Bkejwanong. So I don't know how anyone that lives there can, figure out how to say that, but it's a place. It really, really does exist. I think someone was angry when they named that place. I also have Arnold, who's also was a guest, Kheino, from Sault Ste. Marie-Algoma region, and Patricia Conlin is not here right now, but she may show up. She has also a podcast called Tish Talk, and she represents York and Durham. And Sunday, April 6th, from 2 to 5 p.m., she will be with Max and Frank Stronach at the 40 Elginport Drive. They're having an event there with Maxine there. And let's see if I can find it here. It's right here. All the details, so you can pause and peek. But this is for York, Durham, and everyone in the region is welcome, of course. Outside of the region is welcome to go there. But we will start our episode, meet the candidates, and hear what they have to say right after this. Thank you all for joining us on March 16th, 2025, episode 65 on the Truth Table. I'm going to now bring on the board, the guests, Peyman Askari, Arnold Kheino, and Brian Everaert. Welcome, gentlemen. I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to give it to you each to answer because I know your writings are different. They have different needs. And I figured this would be the best way for you to speak to your constituents and your voters in your riding. The question: what do the voters in your district need to know about you and the PPC platform? Brian first.
All right, right on. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me on tonight. Hello to the other two candidates. It's awesome that you're doing this stuff. And as you can see, Max has been out doing the same. He's been all over the internet. Mainstream media is not going to help us. We'll help ourselves, I guess. But, what I really feel that my constituents in Sarnia, Lambton, Bkejwanong need to know about me is I do the right thing. And I'm a truth teller. And I am. There's not a lot. If you want truth, you're pretty much isolated to the People's Party right now. I believe in Canadian politics, but that's the main thing for me is, we're on the brink. in Sarnia, Lambton, Bkejwanong with this trade and tariff war that's going on right now. It's really scary for my constituents and the people of Sarnia, Lambton, Bkejwanong with the refineries and all of the jobs that are at stake, all the spin-off businesses. And that's what I'm hearing. I was actually out this morning. I went out for breakfast with Shannon, and it was amazing. I had my sheets for signatures with me. I went into a local restaurant and I got outside and it was the same thing. I had people stopping me, asking me what the plan is and what I thought about the situation that we're in. And it was fear. And shame on our politicians in this country that took the votes in the last election and vowed to do what's right for Canadians, and they constantly, uh, consistently make wrong decisions for my riding. Right now, we have a Conservative MP in Sarnia Lambton that went to attend a environmental rally to lower the carbon footprint. And then you look at the guy who's leading and a new prime minister, he's the same thing, the Paris Accord. He's a big carbon guy. And what do we get from our Conservative members of Parliament? They talk about a carbon tax, but then they don't want to look in the mirror about the Paris Accord. So it's, I want people in my riding to know, Paul, that when push comes to shove, we don't have a voice right now for our riding, and it is a unique riding in the country because of the refineries. Right in Ontario too, it's kind of like an Alberta style type of politicking going on. If you want to protect what's there, we're surrounded by a bunch of people who are into this green agenda, and we're, you know, between the West and us is Toronto and all the big cities in Ontario, and they pushed this green agenda for so long, and the people are scared. And the truth of the matter is a Conservative member of Parliament, Liberal member of Parliament, an NDPer, they're whipped to the silence and they're muzzled, and they constantly talk about, you know, we don't want to split the vote, we don't want to split the vote. You've seen 3 elections where Justin Trudeau defeated the Conservative Party. Everybody they put on the docket got defeated, and then they promised us, geez, just promise us you won't split the vote, give us a chance. And what do the MPs from the CPC do? They sit on their hands, they get muzzled, and they can't talk about the truth. So my message to people in my riding is this: I will stand up for you. I will be there when you are looking for a good Conservative yes vote on something that is of value for the riding. But when we get off into the weeds like we are right now, when it comes to fighting with the United States of America, putting Line 5 at risk at the river, I'm going to stand up and be vocal and tell the truth so that we can hear what the truth actually is and not sit down and hide from the truth. And I won't support globalist policies. It's high time that we start taking care of business for Canadians and ourselves. And that doesn't mean isolating ourselves from the States. It means we need to have people who are willing to lead and have forward-looking thinking, and bring that to the riding and stand up for their jobs, stand up for what they need. And it sure as hell isn't the Paris Accord and a globalist agenda. That's it for me, Paul.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. I was actually a song I wrote. Just so you know, that's what it is. It's me playing the piano. That's what I used to do before I did my life-changing career change with doing a podcast. But thank you for asking. If anyone has any questions, you know, I will relate them to the guest or answer them if I can myself. Now I have the same question to Peyman Askari, who's running in the West Vancouver Sunshine Coast, sea to sky country. What do the voters in your riding need to know about you and the PPC platform?
First of all, Paul, thank you very much for having me on. Brian, Arnold, good to see you guys again. I'll start by highlighting what I've seen as the major issues affecting the voters in my riding. The first one being what I'm loosely calling the issues with the economy. Too much taxation, too much regulation, and too much inflation. The second issue is the lack of access to healthcare. And the third issue is the shenanigans going on in schools. issues 2 and 3 principally affect women, whereas issue 1 principally affects men. As to who I am and why I'm running and why for the People's Party, I look at the political landscape in Canada, and it's no longer politics. It is a war zone. If you look at this, what's going on with the tariffs, overnight they've managed to whip up the country into a frenzy, and it's not even patriotism at this point. It's jingoism. 2.5 years ago, when the truckers went to Ottawa, that flag was a symbol of insurrection. A year before that, that flag with the Kamloops residential school incident, that flag was a symbol of attempted genocide. And then all of a sudden, overnight, the flag is the symbol of everything pure in this world. So, why am I running for the People's Party? Because the People's Party is embracing a form of authenticity that I think most Canadians are looking for now in their politicians. It's not just about pandering, and it's not even just about winning elections. It's about getting adults in the room to do the right thing. We can't keep printing money and paying people to stay home. Like, you can't pay people $1,200 to outbid small businesses to encourage people to be unproductive. So, I encourage people in my riding to give me a chance to go to Ottawa and to do what's in the best interest of, not even Canada, but Canadians. We can't keep harming the economy. We can't keep stifling industry just to pursue some pie in the sky idea that carbon is somehow going to lead to all of our demise. So that's me in a nutshell, Paul.
Thank you, Peyman. Same question for Arnold Kheino is representing the PPC party in Sault Ste. Marie and Algoma. What do the voters in your riding need to know about you and the PPC platform?
Well, first off, I want to thank Paul for having all three of us on here. Hopefully Tish shows up, but it's funny when I first got into it, there was a lot of people asking me about the first sentence in our Charter of Rights, the supremacy of God and the rule of law, and they asked, "Are you going to fight for that? We don't want that to go." So, and I said, I was surprised how many people did. So that's one of the biggest things. But the crime rate in Sault Ste. Marie is horrendous. The drug rate is horrendous, and like our police force in the Sioux, they're doing everything they can, but the courts just slap people on the wrist to let them out. So like I think we're number 5 or 6 in Canada for crime rate, and then our opioids, we were number 1 in Ontario at one time, but now we've gone a little bit better. We've stepped up 2 steps, but still, it's just like, and the more I go along, getting into this political game, I never thought that it would be this cutthroat. The corruption is absolutely phenomenal. And just like last week, there was a little kid that died of fentanyl overdose. I don't know if she probably just, the parents just had it in the house and she rubbed something with her, but she ended up dying. And then even in Sudbury, I know it's out of my jurisdiction or riding, I should say, but somebody got off for child abuse. He just got bail time, not even bail time. He got let go. Like, we got to put these laws. Like, the police officers in Sault Ste. Marie are doing a great job, but the judges are just slapping people on the wrist because they're being told what to do by the Trudeau government, obviously. And like, people have asked me about the tariffs. What's your opinion on the tariffs? Right now, we've never had a better chance. Never in Canadian history have we had a better chance to hook up with the states economically, as get rid of the 49th parallel and work economically back and forth. But at the same time, as we're doing that, we can get rid of the boundaries we have in our own provinces. And so that way the Chinese government or the Russian government or Iran or whoever, India, whatever, they could be begging us for our resources. And the biggest thing, like in Sault Ste. Marie, the mass immigration here is crazy. I mean, it's just like, and I'm not putting them down, the immigrants down, but they've been fed a lie to from our government that they make things better here, and that every bus stop you see is just full of immigrants. And the sad part about that is our kids going into high school, they can't get jobs at 16 years old just to buy their first car, just to save up for schooling, just to save up money for their first house. They're totally lost, so that's.
Thank you, Arnold. A lot of people don't know that Canada charges 270 to 390% tariffs on our milk and dairy products. Would the PPC government end the supply management cartel? Arnold?
Yeah, we have to get rid of that. Like, we're overall on board. We're already at a 25% tariff with the states, but we have to get rid of the dairy cartel. Like, we went from 62,000 dairy farms at one time. Now we're down to only about 10,000, something like that. Like, it's just like a little mafia, and we have to.
Mhm.
You got to bring in our own country. You got to bring free trade back into the fold. Like, I mean, like even chickens, you're talking 280% tariffs to bring poultry from the States over here. So we have to totally end that.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Brian, do you think people are aware of the massive tariffs that we have and influencing the price of milk? And with the PPC, would you plan to do everything you can to at least legitimize the program of the supply management?
Well, I don't think Canadians really understand the true and broad power that supply management holds in our country. I would have to say, if you were going to look at lobbyists who control politicians, you can surely bet on supply management and the milk cartel. All you got to do is take a look around where you see the advertising. This little blue symbol, it seems pretty innocent, but they're advertising on the jerseys of our NHL team. They've got big money and they've got big control, and they are a huge influence on our politicians. And absolutely, I got to tell you, when I first got into the People's Party, I'm a farmer myself. I'm out on the farm right now. I'm in my office at home, but I have wheat in the fields, and that wheat price fluctuates on the market. It does. When I go to get it harvested, it may be $6, maybe it'll be $9 a bushel, maybe it won't be anywhere close to any of that. But with supply management, it rigs the prices. And we watched as they talked about the carbon tax. Oh, your grocery prices, all your stuff on your grocery prices has to do with the carbon tax. And there's some truth to that for logistics and delivery and all that stuff. But when we're looking at our farmers dumping milk because they have a quota that they can meet, and then they don't put any excess milk to the market because it'll lower the price. It's supply and demand, which they control it. And I had a problem when I first got into the PPC because I didn't know how to sell it. I'm going to be honest with you. I looked at it, and I looked at it in the same way that I was always told to look at it from the media, from the Liberal Party, from the Conservative Party. Hey, this is a good thing. This is helping our farmers. And as I got to learn what's really going on, I've been around since the inception of the party as a founding member, and I've been involved, and I watch it, and I watch the control that they have, and it's not fair. It's not fair that every time our country gets into international trade negotiations, that there's this small group of producers that hold the other farmers at bay, and it's the truth. Beef farmers, all of them, they get held because there's trade trying to happen with our agricultural people in our different sections of the industry and sectors, and they can't get it done because there's a small group of people that want to have as little production as they have to do for the maximum amount of money they can charge the Canadian citizen for these products. And no pun intended, but the chickens are coming home to roost. People need to understand that Donald Trump's focus with his tariff stuff, if you listen to what he says, he always says dairy, cars. But his dairy stuff's in there because Trump knows. Trump knows who controls our politicians. I'll tell you what, when we watched Polyev, he went and joined himself at the hip with Trudeau to say Orange Man bad over in the States. He didn't do it. And I don't think he did it because it would be his choice to do it. I think he did it because he's a puppet on a string, just like Trudeau is. He's told what he's going to do, and the supply management cartel does not want their 270% milk tariffs and 300% cheese on the trading block. And even I think it was 5 or 6 months ago, they tried to put a bill through that took them out of international trade negotiations. It didn't get anywhere, but they were trying to hold the politicians hostage back then to take them out, make it illegal that they don't ever have to be on the trading block. And I don't know where it went. And I think because the prorogation of government happened, these people yield massive power right to where they're picking leaders of parties, right to where they're trying to manipulate who's there so that the prime minister that gets elected is one that supports supply management. And no, I don't, Paul. I don't think the people of the country truly understand how deep those roots are in that lobbyist group. We're trying to bring it to the forefront, but they're about to see. If they want to ask themselves the questions, why would Donald Trump be wanting to come out and do this to Canada? Donald Trump's tired of watching the Canadian government bring in 270% tariffs on dairy, and then you watch Canadians, he's so terrible. Why would he do it? Well, if the Canadians knew the list of tariffs that are out there that we've had on the States for years, I think they might understand where the guy's coming from. The style of Donald Trump, not really up my alley. I don't think I don't appreciate the 51st state comments, and I don't think anybody did in this country. But the fact of the matter is you don't run over and say, okay, now we're going to fight with you. You have to find solutions. We can't have politicians that want to shut down our negotiations with our best neighbor we could possibly have, a superpower of the world. And these, I call them clowns now. They join at the hip. The leaders of the parties, they hide together. None of them want to do what's right. And Canadians are about to find out. And I think they're starting to, but it all comes down to a lot to do with supply management. So we'll see where it goes. I know Maxime Bernier is the only one who has the courage, in the conviction, in the forethought, in the knowledge, in the professionality, like about what he does as a politician, to bring it up. He had it out there 6 years ago, just like mass immigration. He knew it. He knew it was going to be a problem, that we can't continue. It's like printing money. And I was glad to hear it brought up here. You can't continue to do things that are detrimental to your country and expect consequences to never come. Well, they're here now, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, imagine what the price of 4 liters of milk would be without the cartel controlling it. I mean, it could be $1 or something, something, and incredible savings.
The thing is the way I see it, it's like this. There's something to say about having volume in international trade with any product. So you hear all these left-leaning parties about this green this and green that, and we've got for our producers dumping product down the drain. And we're trying to lower our carbon footprint according to them, yet they're dumping product down the drain. Do you know how much energy, how much goes into creating milk and all this food that we should be supplying to people? And instead of putting it on the market, it's a waste. And it's despicable to watch it go on. And I'm hoping that it's about volume for me. We get cheap prices, and they can create more product to sell on the open market. And here's the difference. You don't shut down the product. You put regulations on the quality. So if the state's producers can't meet the quality we need in Canada, then so be it. You can't bring your stuff in here. But for God's sakes, we need to come up with a plan that isn't letting this group of people control our politicians. We're paying right now because of it.
I would agree 100%. Freedom Conversation, let me know if the music's too loud. It's in 432 hertz, which is supposed to be aligned with Mother Nature and a healing frequency, which is why I use it. And I only record in 432 because of it. The supply management, Peyman and Askari, I'm going to ask the same question on how would you deal with the supply management if you could be the one person to make the decision in the party to create a a platform statement about the supply management. Sorry, my question is so long. How would you deal with the supply management?
Well, let's take it from the top. This whole dairy cartel supply management, it's got two sides to it. One is internally with the licensing, and then one is externally with the tariffs. So when you have a country like China, for example, that's not playing fair, it's free trade, but it's not fair trade. Tariffs kind of make sense because China goes to the companies, like Canadian companies that go to China, and they make a profit over there. China kind of holds their profits hostage, says you have to reinvest in our country. And it seems like it doesn't matter from the company's perspective because they're making a profit. It doesn't matter if it stays there or not. They're just assuming at some point they could take it out. But they're siphoning wealth away from Canada in the form of losses to labor. Like we're not employing Canadian labor. We're employing Chinese labor. In that case, you could make an argument for tariffs. With America, it's a little bit different because from their perspective, and I'm not a trade expert, but from their perspective, we're the ones that are not playing fair. So they look at it and it's not 50-50. It's like 80-20. So we're gouging when it comes to tariffs. I suspect that they put up with this when our economy was smaller, but now that our economy is a little bit bigger and their share of the global economy has gone down and they've lost so much to offshoring, I think this falls in line with Trump's sort of vision for Manifest Destiny 2.0, where he's trying to consolidate everything in North America. Paul leaving made me lose my train of thought. So that's externally. Internally, though, they have a licensing system for dairy, which to me is completely unfair. Why is it that if I have a cow, why do I have to go get a license to milk the cow? Like, that cow is my property, it's my farm, and it's a very, very expensive license. And I brought this up before. When it's a driver's license, you pay whatever, $20, $30, $50, $100 a year for the license. You're paying for the individual behind the counter to process that. But with the dairy license, it's almost extortion. Like, I can't remember, is it $10,000 per whatever 1,000 liters of milk? Like, it's a lot of money, and I want to know where this is going. There's no way that somebody's sitting there like filing this jug of milk. We're not actually paying for the labor. So that's another issue I have with the dairy cartel. With both tariffs and that licensing system, it's almost a tax. Like, we call it a tariff, but it's a tax because it's passed on to the end user, the consumer. So now you're increasing the cost to the consumer as well. But I have a far bigger problem in that I don't think government has the right to deprive us of our ability to live, to thrive. And that's what they're doing with this dairy cartel. I'm sure there's a wheat cartel, I don't know, poultry cartel, beef cartel. This isn't the purpose. This isn't the vision I have for Canada. If I have a farm and I want to grow beef and I want to sell it to somebody, other farmer that's got poultry, that's between me and him and maybe God. But the government should not get in the middle of that. So I am 100% on board with the People's Party view that we need to dismantle this dairy cartel.
I would agree with you 100%. Now, everyone has their own methodology of trying to reach their constituents, their voters in the riding. Have you been effective reaching out with your podcast in lay terms?
I have been.
Here on Rumble.
Sorry, I was reading one of the comments. So what was the question?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your podcasts, and you are getting a lot of information out. Do you reach out to your voters in your region, in your riding specifically when you do your podcast? Is that one of the things that you try to do?
But my general rule on the podcast is anybody that's a Canadian and they're fighting for their country is welcome on the show. I have gotten maybe like 10% of that is in my riding, but it's not as high as I'd like.
Well, you are giving a lot of information. Your guests, same with the missing link. I find he has a lot of really amazing guests, both of yous, and I think I've had amazing guests like you three, because my guests basically, in general, care about their fellow man, and I think that.
I think we lost him.
I say that's their fellow man. On my homepage, you see. See. Oh.
Paul, if you can hear us,
Ooh.
you are dropping out quite badly. Maybe reconnect.
Yes, my internet was shut down, so they must know we're here. Oh goodness, good heavens! So, as I was saying, I see the PPC party as a party that cares about their fellow man. I would expand personally. I expand that to all of Earth. I care about, the lives and the health of people in all countries, and I think the PPC party aligns with that feeling. They don't want to rip off the United States with tariffs. They want to have a agreement that works for both sides. There's no supply management kind of thinking in the PPC party, and I'm going to guess, Peyman, that's why you are a part of it. Because of the platform and the message.
Yes, absolutely, and that's the number one reason that I joined the People's Party is because of the platform and because it's publicly available, and it's not publicly available in some PDF buried 100 pages deep into their website. It is the party. They don't pretend to hide it, and it hasn't changed substantially, and it is a rock solid platform.
I agree. Brian, would you say that the People's Party is like the only party that really cares about their fellow man?
Well,
and
I
not
think
its own power?
I think it's the same thing that Peyman said is, when you take a look at the options on the political front in Canada right now, I can tell you that I used to be with the Conservative Party, and I left a long time ago because the PPC was the option with Bernier, and absolutely, it's so awesome to see the new faces that have come on board for, I'd say, the last year and a half or 2 years, and the people who have stuck it out, people who stick around, and the people that are coming on board. There's a lot of integrity. There's a lot of common thought, and it is about caring about what's going to happen to the country. The people you see in the PPC are genuine. They go off a platform that is specifically catering to Canada First Canadians, the future for our kids, our grandkids. It is absolutely the best party that there is out there as far as I'm concerned. And here's another thing with the PPC is we don't have to all think the same way. And Max allows that. Max lets that happen. And that's what makes us a populist party is when you take a look at some people, we can have differences within our ideas in the People's Party, and we're still getting along like we're best friends because we understand that in a thriving country, free thought being able to speak your mind, whether or not you agree with each other all the time or not, it counts. It's how you stay free. And Canada is that way only because of that. But we're losing that right now. We need to regain it. And it is. The people that are attracted to the People's Party, as far as I'm concerned, are the salt of the earth. Very, very intelligent people, forward-looking thinkers. They don't jump. Knee-jerk reaction is not something that I've noticed the people in our party have. They're thinkers, and Canada needs that. And I'm talking about good, genuine, good people are in our party, and it hasn't changed at all. Because if they're not, they would never be able to hang, because we tell the truth and we do what's right. And that's, Peyman mentioned it earlier. Do we do the right thing? And I love being associated with all these people, all you gentlemen on the screen tonight and in this interview, because it makes me feel proud, because we have people who are looking out for the country, and we're getting bigger and it's starting to spread. The fact that we've stuck to the truth is going to pay off, and it's going to pay off not just for us, like as far as being able to get seats in the House. It's going to pay off for Canada. It's going to pay off 50 years down the road. And it's because of the integrity of the people that said, hey, I've had enough. I need to contribute more. Canada's on the hurt, and the quality of people that are at the People's Party is awesome. And I can't see myself with any other political party into the future, even because of the way the People's Party is, and now how many free thinkers there are and good people there are in the party. And the leadership, for me, sometimes I hear people getting Max this and Max that. Max and Bernier has been there through thick or thin. And nobody's perfect, including everybody on this show. And that's the best part, is I don't think any of us expect anybody to be perfect. But we know damn well that the people beside us and candidates that are around in our neighboring ridings have our backs, and they got Canada's back. And that's it. That's it. It's what the PPC is about.
I would have to agree. I mean, I would say I'm probably a little biased because I won't be voting for any other party. But Arnold, do you think the People's Party cares about their fellow man and not power and getting power?
Yeah, what the beauty of the People's Party is, we're not emboldened to Max. We don't worship Max. Like the other parties, they worship Carney, or they worship Singh, or they worship Polyev. Like I joined the party because I love the values of the platform. And like Brian was saying, Max doesn't want us to take a knee to him, and I would never take a knee to another person. And that's not going to happen. But the beauty of our party as a platform is rock solid. You can't beat it. The other parties, when they go to the conventions, they vote on. Even the leaders don't have a say on who's running the platform, because it's somebody from behind the platform that's running it. I mean, you can see what's happening right now with the PCs, like we talked about earlier. It's not Polyev running that platform. It's somebody else that's running it, because you can't screw up a platform as bad as they're doing right now. But I just want to go back on what we're talking about, the tariffs there. What I think we all forgot to say is the only reason Trump is so big on these tariffs is because of the drug cartels and the money laundering in Canada. That's why he is so. He just wants us to get rid of the drugs, the drug cartels and the money laundering in our country. If our leaders would do that, because you look on BC, like Trudeau and them say, well, we only had 1% or 43 grams of fentanyl coming across the country. Well, that's enough to kill the whole freaking city. But we just had the biggest drug bust out in BC in the history of Canada. So did they account that into the 43 grams that came across the borders? No, Trump's not talking about the 49th parallel border and the drugs. He's talking about the money laundering, the Chinese gangs, the biker gangs, the fact that Probably half Canadians don't know about that Toronto Dominion. They just got caught for money laundering. This is the stuff that he wants to stop. And our government's not listening to him. They want to go to war with him. Sorry to say, but we're not. We wouldn't stand 2-3 months in a tariff war with the states. Just get rid of the drugs and the money laundering and the drug cartel and the mafias in our country. So, but the fact is that Max lets us talk like that. That's the beauty of Max, because we, like, I live in Sault Ste. Marie, Peyman's out in Vancouver, Brian's in Southern Ontario. We all have different issues in our own areas, so it's not a one size fit all. We have to worry about our own areas.
Thank you, Arnold. Now I have a question. Thank you for your questions. Remanded, thanks for your comments and your information. Perry wants to know, what would be your solution to what's happening with our parliament? Peyman first.
Sure. You cut out there, but I think you're talking about Prairie's question. What would be the solution to prevent what's happening with Carney getting in and the proroguing and the Governor General? I mean, we have to fix our Constitution. The Constitution is so poorly written. If you compare the BNA Act with the United States Constitution, it reads like a legal document as opposed to something written by sovereign citizens. So I would. This is long term. This is not something that's going to be done in one election cycle. But I would fix it so you get the crown, all the references to the crown and the Governor General. I'd throw that out. And just a side note, Carney, I believe, is doing a trip to Europe, and Mr. Kheino and I talked about this. When he goes there, he's got to bend the knee to the king. That's a big red flag. Like, if you're a sovereign citizen, you shouldn't do that. But I think we need to get rid of the crown. We need to get rid of the Governor General, and we need to fix the wording in there. So, at least the word Prime Minister appears in there. That's the first thing I do. The second thing I do is I would plant the seeds to one day for Canada to become a constitutional republic. What we've seen in the last 5 years, I blame it entirely on the fact that Canada has been essentially running as an absolute democracy, where 51% majority is the will of the people. It becomes a living constitution, and that 51% can crush the rights of the other 49%. In reality, it's like 80% turned on the 20% that weren't vaccinated. So that's the second thing I do, constitutional checks and balances. And the third thing I would do to prevent this from ever happening again, and this is a tough pill to swallow, is eternal vigilance. There's no way that you can create a system that's so beautiful and so perfect and so airtight that everybody can return to their fields and rest assured that this will never happen again. Evil will always rear its ugly head. We have to work at this, and to get out of this mess that we've created, it's not, the solution isn't just a political solution. The PPC will be a part of it, and we'll move it along politically, but it has to come with people getting involved and educating themselves. I'm in British Columbia. We just provincially passed Bill C7, which gives the government even more powers to basically go around the democratic process and bring in any laws it wants, whenever it wants, however it wants. Well, the reason they do that is because we're not educated. We had prorogue, like we didn't have a government, a legislature for several months. Nobody seemed to care. We've parachuted a City of London leader as prime minister who's not elected, doesn't hold a seat in the office, has 3 passports, hasn't lived here for 10 years, and nobody seems to care. So when we have a citizenry that's not involved, it doesn't. These questions, they're kind of moot. So I would start with the citizenry. Thank you.
Thank you, Peyman. Same question to you, Brian. What would be your solution to what's happening with our parliament, so we never get hijacked like this again?
I agree with a lot of things that Peyman just said, but one thing that what I believe is it's been a snowball effect. probably something a lot of people would never suspect that would have ever went down. But I believe in proportional representation. I believe that we need to find a way to get there. Our system leaves almost 1 million voters out. The 840,000 or whatever it was, the People's Party voters in the last election were told that your opinion doesn't matter. You have no representation in the House. Meanwhile, the Greens get 300 some thousand votes, and here they are in Parliament. I know the wheels of government move a lot slower. You get a lot more parties involved, and things can get dicey on that end too. But what I'm seeing is a system that every time Canadians turn around, it lets us down. If there's a little bit of a loophole or wiggle room for a corrupt politician, they slip their toe through that door. So we need to tighten it up. And I think the way that it happens is, in another thing for me, is get the government out of the business of media. When you control the message, you control what people think. It's absolutely sickening. It's almost like they pushed a button for this Captain Canada thing that's going on in Canada. And it just makes me sick to my stomach to watch that all the things are manipulated. I shared something on my Facebook. It was an Ecos poll, I believe. All the numbers on the bottom of the bar, I think PPC was at 4.5%, but I couldn't tell because it was the only number that was smeared and confused. And you look at 338, they'll put a bar graph up, they'll put a plus or minus, and they'll have the minus in a negative to make sure the PPC bar graph has no color in it. They're ahead of the Greens, but the bar has no color. So when someone flips through it, it looks like there's nothing for us. It's so rigged, so corrupt. Having the media and the pollsters involved with the federal government, it should be illegal, in my opinion, that a red cent, we don't have a cent anymore, maybe they took that copper from us too, like the silver, but we shouldn't be having any money going to media at all, right? So that's the way I see it. I think that there's massive things, and Peyman got into it, and I believe what he talked about. There are a bunch of things about the Republic and all that, but we have watchdogs being kept out. And right now, when you leave an open gate with no watchdogs, the thieves run in and out and take whatever they want. And they're keeping the watchdogs out. For the People's Party, we should, I look at it in a way, for that many votes, I don't know what it would have worked out to. 6 seats, or I forget what the number was in proportional representation, maybe even higher than that, maybe around 20. I can't say the number, but if you're in the House and you have parliamentary privilege, right, and you can stand up and speak the truth, that's what they're fighting us. That's what they don't want us in the House for. They know that the people who are involved in the People's Party, like myself and the gentleman here, will not be having a leash and muzzle on them. And they, in order to steal and rob from the public and set their buddies up, they need it wide open. So that's what I would do. No more media funded by the federal government. If you can't have media that tells the truth and survive by advertising, then I guess you're going down in flames, because we're not going to prop you up. And proportional representation, if you have a party that gets almost 1 million votes in Canada, they're damn well going to have some seats in the House of Commons, and they're going to get a say. And that's the way that I see it. That's how we start the change. And that could end up turning into where Peyman was going about, different processes. And that's how we get them out there. That's how we're able to get that topic out there, is to have people who aren't muzzled and being told what they can say and they can't say. And then the public gets to hear it. And then it snowballs. But that's what I do.
Well, like Peyman, you also post videos on a regular basis. But I think you could help expand my knowledge on how to pronounce Bkejwanong. Do you know how to say it?
Yeah, it's tough. And what it is, it's an Aboriginal reserve that was added to Sarnia, Lambton. So it's Bkejwanong. So it's tough to pronounce. Bkejwanong. So Bkejwanong is how it's pronounced. So it is tough, it's rough. And I had to get all my stuff all rearranged because they changed my riding in the boundaries. But I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of PPC supporters in some of the outskirt lying areas in my riding that they added. So they actually moved me a lot into a populace where I grew up closer to where they added to my riding. So the people that have a chance to vote for me now, I went to high school with, I played hockey with. So what they've done is the move gave me more people who personally know me, which I think is great. It just means more support. So it's Bkejwanong, Paul, and it's tough to say.
Well, I'm glad, because I would have like woke up from a night.
Uh-oh.
Storming.
There you go, Paul. Are you
It
there?
always
now?
does this.
We lost you for a bit.
Yeah, yeah, I think the powers that be do not like me here right now. But I'm not going to quit. It's my internet. It keeps going in, out, in, out. All right, Arnold, same question to you about the government.
Well, I think
Not being able to, yes. What would be your solution to what's happening with our parliament so we never get hijacked like this again?
well, I
Thank you,
think
Prairie, for the
first
comment,
problem.
the question.
I think the first problem is we vote for a party, we don't vote for a leader. So the one thing about the states, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, but they vote for the president separately than the parties, and then plus their government has checks and balances, so that like so one has to go through 3 different levels to make sure that they're not being idiots like our and I hate to use the word idiots, but being dishonest like our liberal government and NDP government was. Like, I mean, you can tell that. Like, and I agree with everything that Brian and Peyman were saying too. But we have to. How do I want to say it? There's actually no accountability in the government. That's another thing that has to be brought up. Like, I mean, it's like you have a system where Trudeau goes to the government or governor general there and says, I want to promote government. Okay, because she's bought off by or selected by the government. We have to have a system where people in high authorities like that are voted by the people, like, for example, the governor general. I know it's a Westminster system, but just ideas that people not high of a profile, they have to be voted by the people, not by the government that's running in power at the time. So I think what's the biggest thing, in my opinion, is the government power has too much power to select whoever they want. That tells you that will go to the will of what that government what that government wants. So we have to get more what's the word I want to use, unbiased people in the higher authorities in the government, where Canadians can actually vote on them, not the government general.
Yeah, I think the problem is good people generally don't have any interest in politics. I think we've lost so much. I mean, there's such a huge list of what they've done. The Bill C-18, more censorship. Bill C-21, disarm law-abiding citizens. C-11, censorship. C-223, universal basic income. I mean, it's on and on. The scams, the $258 million in projects to GC Strategies, Winnipeg Labs, SNC scandal, Aga Khan trip. I mean, on and on and on. It's like nobody with a good heart or good intentions have been trying to get into politics. It's like a buddy system they have where, hey, you come in too, you can run in this district, and It's like all the bad boys that were in the principal's office in school went to politics so they could, dictate what they want. All right, let's see if I can get Peyman to tell me what he thinks is the future holds for all of us.
I want to. That's an open-ended question. I want to go back to that what you just showed in that picture. So I'm going to tie in some things that people said. So Brian said that one of our biggest issues right now is the state media, state control over media, and I can't find any point on which I disagree with that. Here, a lot of the stuff that was rammed through is because they have control of the media. If we had not just independent media, but if we had honest media, they would be hammering Justin Trudeau and he would have been out of office years ago. So that's one issue. Another issue, Mr. Kheino, he ran provincially in Ontario for the New Blue Party, and he did a debate, and that debate's online, and you guys can go search for that. Every single other candidate that was on that panel, there was a Liberal, an NDP, and a Progressive Conservative. Every solution that came out of their mouth was some version of another project, a new initiative. So basically throwing more money at the problem. So when you have that happening over and over again, the society gets conditioned to believe that if you're not spending money, if you're not doing something, which means spending money, then you're doing nothing. You're useless. So that's one of the issues that, an honest, authentic party like the People's Party, it's a challenge that we have. So we have to find a way to message to them, we're going to do less, we're going to take some, it's a psychological issue where you're trying to tell people, vote for me, so I take something away from you. Another thing I wanted to bring up is this concept of liberalism that I say it's like a disease that's infected the West. And liberals, the reason that I have more contempt for liberals than I would for like conservatives, even though they're sort of similar on opposite sides, liberals believe that, their cause is just. So anything that they do, they can do no harm, they can do no wrong. And that includes forcing their ideology on people through the government. And the last thing that is sort of causing problems in Canada is what I call progressivism. It comes out of these urban centers where people have this belief that it is the responsibility of government to take care of us from cradle to grave. And it's almost a religion for these people. So that is another big challenge that I see that we have to overcome. And I see the PPC as the tip of the spear of returning responsibility, individual responsibility to the voters.
Yeah, and I'm glad all of you got into politics. And it's unfortunately we didn't see this coming ahead of time, because I think we came as could see the cliff that Thelma and Louise were driving us over. But do you have hope in the future for Canada, Brian?
Oh yeah, I have hope in the future. It's been a tiring situation over the last little while, with all the hype and all the and back again to the media garbage. I do have hope for Canada because I still believe that that we are the best country and greatest country in the world. I think that we have some work to do. I think that we're like an old vehicle. I think that there's been a lot of people riding around and here's some ticket, and all they've been doing is turning the stereo up instead of changing the oil and maintaining this great country. And they expect it to go away. Well, it's gotten worse. I can tell you this much: I'm not into the people that discover that maybe what they thought about some of the other parties hasn't been going the right way, and they want to take their ball and go home. My advice for the people is Canada is not lost. Canada is here. Well, maybe lost in one way, but the country's not lost. And we need to pull up our boots and socks. Well, we need to understand what we're really about. Get back to basics. Peacekeeping, helping your neighbor, making sure you're not going along with and speaking up, having your voice out there where you don't look at somebody and go, oh geez, I can't say anything because that might affect my son making the hockey team. This is the stuff that happens, and this is how countries go down in flames, is when the silence becomes something, because speaking up is a punishment. The fact of the matter is, and I say it all the time, when those boats hit those beaches and the gates went down, the Canadians ran out the gate. They knew what they were looking at. They knew that some of them weren't going to come back, but they didn't sit in the boat or turn the boat around. They went out the front of the boat and they fought. And that's what I'm asking Canadians to do. Instead of watching somebody from the People's Party who's out there telling the truth, exposing the person that you thought was doing the right thing, you know damn well they're not now. And it's time to help. Don't just sit there and mock and play armchair quarterback. Get out there and do something for Canada. Stand up, lead by example for our young people. It's not good enough to demonize our neighbor in the States. There's solutions there. Get out there. Stand up for your country and the future of your kids, and get it done. Canada is a vast area of lots and lots of resources. We have wealth to the beyond belief in this country. It has to be, how can I put it? It has to be pulled in and put to use in the proper way with the proper people who have the people in mind, not power, not politicians. It has to be there to give a better way of life and a better standard of living for Canadians. And we have that here. Don't listen to the media. The media is telling you to go a certain way. That's where Canadians need to come to terms with that. The fact is there's some sacrifice involved to keep the country. And it's time right now. We have to do it. I'm not going to stop fighting for Canada. I can tell you that much. I'm going to continue. And I have the perfect game plan in the People's Party platform to do it. So I'm going to continue to do it. And I encourage other people to do the same.
That's good. We do need to keep a positive outlook on things. And I think the People's Party and Maxime Bernier has attracted the best kind of people. I think since COVID, I've met the best people in my whole life. Like, I've absolutely met the most amazing people and have the most, like, till death kind of friendships that I have no doubt in my mind. So, Arnold, do you too have a positive outlook and the potential? Because a lot of people don't really understand that candidates from the People's Party will answer their constituents over their own party. If you because every riding is different, you may have different needs that may not be specific in the platform, but specific to your riding. And the most important thing is people understanding that about the People's Party is that they really, really, really represent you. You know, in your district, they care about you and your riding and the conditions of your riding. So do you have hope for the future, Arnold?
Oh, 100%. I mean, how can you not? Like, the beauty about evil or corruption, it always shows itself up. And what you're seeing right now, that you have you have the premiers of all the provinces, you have the federal government, all wanting to go to a war against the states, and they're making themselves. They're actually showing how much of a unique party all the provincial parties and the federal parties are together. They put the cards on the table, and the beauty of if you look at the polls from 18-year-olds to 25-year-olds, about 15 to 20, maybe I even seen as high as 25%. They are looking at our party because they see that we're offering a promise. Like when their parents were that age, like you say, 16 years old, I had my first car. I was free. Turned the key on, and I was never at home. But then I had a job at 16 years old. And then I was able to pay for people are able to go to school to pay for schooling. But there's so many moments in Canadian history that has brought our country together. You look at Terry Fox. My God, He started off very small in the Atlantic Ocean when he dipped his leg. He hit Thunder Bay there. He had a big following. I don't know if you guys, I'm a little bit older than a couple of you guys, but in 1972, Canada shut down for that Canada-Russia summit. Every business shut down for that last game. It was such, I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it, but the whole country, even Diefenbach was there on watching. They were showing watching. And then you have the truckers convoy. And that just was another uniting factor. So getting Canadians together. The spirit's still there. The heart's still there. I think what Canadians are looking for is a party like ours that wants to unite them back to bring us to the country we are, and still be great again.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. So that was the roundtable portion. The roundtable portion of the show. But now I'm just going to open up to everyone. To start just with Peyman and what he thinks. What he thinks about. I had a question in my head and I just totally lost it. I just want to open up so you can talk about what you want to talk about, what you think is important. I'm going to start with Peyman, go to Brian, and then Arnold, and open up the conversation for anyone that wants to jump in.
Okay. Open-ended question. I'll keep it short. I think this whole, let's talk about the tariffs with Trump. Yes, it's about the fentanyl because it's just reached such levels that it's wreaking havoc in the U.S. and the level of organized crime in Canada has probably got him worried. But I think it's also because the U.S., he wants to restructure everything. He wants to onshore industry. He wants to devalue his dollar so that his trade exports are competitive. And I think he's realizing that there's no more unipolar world. Like he's already signaled that he wants to get the hell out of NATO, doesn't want to do these endless wars, doesn't care about Ukraine. And he wants to align in Canada. And I'll just wrap it up quickly. We have no sensible leadership in Canada. They are freaking out and they're trying to use patriotism to whip people up into a frenzy. This isn't a long-term solution. We need adults in the room to identify that Canada cannot compete. We just can't compete on any scale with the US. Let's figure out where they want to go, either partner with them, or if we're going to go our separate way, what's the 50-year plan on how to do that? This is the world's biggest country, superpower on our border.
Okay, Brian, anything that comes to mind that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I agree with what Peyman said there, but we got to look at it in that way. It's amazing when you watch it. It's like they threw the baby out with the bathwater. Trump came over and said, we want you to stop the fentanyl and any illegal immigrants crossing our border. And there was never a pause and a discussion. It was a knee-jerk reaction that all our leaders went and joined hands and started screaming the orange man's bad. And I couldn't believe how quickly it happened. And that just goes to show you where we're at. The fact of the matter is what I saw what worked for that, and what I still think needs to happen. As much as the solutions given them to buffoons it bothers me too. A lot of times these people, anything to fix it. But these guys take some of the stuff we say and they try to implement it when they should have been doing it in the first place. I'll tell you what they should have done was it should have been Poilievre, Trudeau on a plane down to the States, not Doug Ford. It should have been our federal leaders with the media in tow and make a great big spectacle, because that's exactly what Trump wants. That's his style. Sit down. Tell him you want to reopen the trade agreement early. Sit down and go through it. Bernier talks about the same thing. What do they want? What do we want? It's a win-win thing that you make with your neighbor, with the States. There is no reason why we have to sit here and have him, meaning Donald Trump, pick our country apart and expose our weaknesses on the world stage. And he has done that. but he's done it because of our weak leadership. He's done it because these people that we have in power in this country, they don't know how to play the game. They don't know how to do the deals. They don't know what to do because, and you're right, they're drumming up Canadian patriotism. Well, we were there in the streets of Ottawa. We already did that for the right reasons. These guys that are in power, they're quite frankly extremely scary and worrisome for me to watch how they're dealing. They should have went over there. They should have said, okay, shut the door. Now let's talk behind closed doors. But they could have blew it up, created a great big event out of it, and played right into Trump's hand. And by the way, when I hear people talking about, well, we only have 1% of the fentanyl and this and that. Well, it's why they call it smuggling. It's why just because the stats are there for what they see getting caught has no reflection on what's actually going across that border. And when you look at the amount of laundering of money that's going on over in the country, in Vancouver and British Columbia, the real estate people, the amount of drugs and stuff they're finding, it's all over the place. But it comes to mind out there that it seems to be going on out there a lot. We need leadership. We need somebody with guts. Let's put it that way. We need someone who's willing to stand up and take a look around and say, you know what? Corrupt. We need to come in and sweep it clean. And we need to have people who are in control. But again, when you don't have control of media, the public never gets to know what the truth is. And so we go on. But that's what I want to happen. I think that I'm hoping that Canadians see how weak that the leadership is of the CPC and the Liberal Party. They're globalists. They toe the line for globalists. They don't want to work for us. And I think that we can have a win-win with Trump. And I think we can make it happen. But it's got to be the Canadian citizens that come to the table with us to be able to get the solution. And that's with their votes. That's with supporting us and getting out of this with these other globalist parties who lobbyists control. It's time for Canadians to take back their country. I want nothing more than good relations with Trump. I want our auto industry. I want all of our farmers, everybody to be prosperous. I want to get into our resource sector and make the people in Canada wealthy. He's talking about no income tax over there for people under 150 grand a year. Look at our resources. We've got 40 million in this country. We have potential for things exactly like that. But when we allow globalists and weak leaders to control us and we give them our vote, we punish ourselves when we reward corruption. Take a look at the foreign interference really quick here. We were told there's names. We were told there's a bunch of names. Poilievre wouldn't get security clearance, didn't want to know who the names were for him. All of a sudden, now there's no names. Well, Poilievre told everybody he didn't go to get clearance and go read them because he would have been gagged. Well, has he mentioned anything about the foreign interference since? No, he hasn't. CIS has told us the corruption is deep for generations in our country. So Canadians need to take a look at that, and they need to say, it's time for us to clean house. It's time for us to do the right thing. And that's what I'm sticking on, is doing the right thing. I can see Bernier sitting at the table with Trump way, way above and beyond compared to looking at the other clowns that have run away, that are hiding because they're scared that they got to go against their own lobbyists. And they're in the corner. So it's time. It's time for the People's Party.
And this is what I was talking about earlier, about the kinds of people that are attracted to the People's Party. Because there is no fight with the People's Party. There's no fight with Trump. It's just negotiation skills, both sides winning. It's not about beating, winning the other, having an advantage. But money is a big issue here. But people with the most money will get, the funding and the supply management has a lot of control as well, and can do harm. We've had dairy farmers with, the military going in with machine guns, for heaven's sake, to a dairy farmer, that has cows. And the community bought a cow together so they could drink raw milk. That was the only way to get around the rules, was to own the car. Own the cow, and to be able to do that. Arnold, do you have anything that you'd like to say? That you, Jesse Hall is here, and just in case you didn't know, he's probably interviewed one or two of us by now.
So
Welcome, Jesse. Nice to see you, brother.
my question is the Canadians is, how does it take a foreign government to expose the corruption in our country? It took one person to show exactly what's going on in our country. And every politician in Canada never looked at the fact that Trump might get in. So they cursed him, they swore, they called him names. As much as I can't stand Trudeau, I would never call him a name, whatever. I would say, like, the guy ruined our country, yeah. But I wouldn't be name calling him. But every Canadian politician, pretty much majority, name called Trump and not think that he would ever get back in. The one thing that's different about the States and Canada and traveling into States is when I was delivering boats down there, the one thing that they told me is either Trump gets in or we get in. And what people in the world have to realize, it's not Trump that won the election. It was the American people. They were done with this globalism. They're done with this DEI stuff. And they told me this had nothing to do with Trump. We are going to vote. He's our best hope. And if Trump doesn't step up to the plate, they're going to vote him out just as much as they did. But they were done with all the BS coming in from the globalism and the WF and the UN. In Canada, we have to get out of the Paris Treaty Accord. They all axe attacks, whatever, all these stupid slogans. Until you get away from the Paris Treaty Accord, you're not going to axe any tax. Until you get out of the United Nations, nothing's going to change. And until you get away from the WHO and the WF, nothing's going to change. Because they could care too less. I was going to say, they could care less about Canada. They have one agenda, and their goal is to get rid of the Western democracy. And nobody's, like, just in discussion tonight, we still have the mass immigration. That's still getting worse and worse. We got to keep on talking about that. These ones that are over here illegally or overstayed their visas, they have to be sent back to their countries. Because, like I said earlier, our 16-year-olds can't get the jobs at Tim Hortons because that's what they look on when they get in high school, part-time jobs. We can't afford houses because they've taken them all the houses. I'm not even gone into the cars yet. They're buying all the cars up. Nobody can buy a used car anymore because they're too expensive. And a lot of the problems in Canada has to do with mass immigration, right from crime, homelessness, and all that. So it's time we got to fight back.
Thank you. Peyman, would you say that, yeah, I don't know how we could fight back because the system is rigged. The media is involved. The polls are involved. People are brainwashed. And I think Peyman would probably agree with me that the People's Party isn't based on petty drama and division, as Squirrel Nut said. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, we're not. We're trying to do an impossible task, which is we want to do politics, but we also want to educate the voters. The reason I say it's not impossible, but what happens in politics, you have 15, 20 seconds to make your pitch, whereas when you want to educate, you need 30 minutes. So when you start having to explain your policies to the voter, you tend to lose them. So you're saying that is the PPC petty? No, we're not petty. We're trying to do the right thing. It's a hard thing to do. It's a long road, but we're taking that two-step approach: politicking, educating, politicking, educating. You asked a while back if the three of us are hopeful for the future of Canada. I am, and here's the reason. Here's how I see Canada right now. I say that we're in a cold civil war. you have the powers that be, Ottawa, the provincial legislatures, maybe some, the Laurentian elites, whatever, the billionaires. They not only want to hold on to their power, but they want to increase the level of authoritarianism, the tyranny, the communism. Again, I go back to BC, like they're just ramming through bills that are absolutely ungodly. At the same time, you have, grassroots voters, citizens, Canadians that are patiently working. They're trying to navigate this and find a way to take back control without resorting to violence. I don't think the Canadians will resort to violence. I don't think the powers that be will put boots on the ground and turn Canada into the Islamic Republic of Iran, if for no other reason than because they know that Donald Trump is, south of the border and he will not stand for it. I'm hopeful. The Canadians are educating themselves. They're lifting themselves out of this tyranny that we've dug ourselves into. And the final thing I'll say is that what I want to see in Canada, my vision is to change our relationship with government. I don't want to have to go to government to ask for permission for every single thing that we do. I want to be in control of my own life. If I slip through the cracks and I get absolutely obliterated, I can deal with that. I don't want government to treat me like a slave.
Yeah. Well, did you know that Jesse Hall from the Missing Link called Trudeau names?
I second that motion. Good for you, Jesse.
He's very bold. He could probably be a candidate for the PPC if he wasn't so busy saving the world on the Missing Link. And he will be my guest on the 20th, which I look forward to, the day before the golden age begins. Let's go to Brian. And I've watched a lot of Parliament, and it's very hard to watch. They're very childish. They're like the progressives will, show the sins of the liberals openly, so everyone can hear it. Why not to vote for them? And the liberals will do the same thing to conservatives. They will say, you did this, you did that. And, everyone should say in the end that none of these people are electable, because they're really, while they're fighting with each other, they're actually revealing what they've done in the past. And it's this game where they just think we're idiots. Like they look down on Canadians, like we're dumb, like they can behave like, kindergarten. They really do. Banging, yelling, heckling. These are not adults in a room here. And, I hope they all lose their seats, because none of them are mature enough to hold this kind of, conversation about the future of the country. Would the PPCs get rid of all these bills that have just, like I showed earlier? There's a big long list of, basically crimes, getting rid of our guns and getting rid of this and that. Are you hopeful for the future, Brian?
Well,
I think I already asked you that, but I guess my question is,
I can go back on the guns and the behavior in Parliament, and what I think our government's being run right now. Is it scripted? It is scripted. It's just like Peyman just said, asking permission for what they can say. Everything in Parliament is sheets and paper passed across, using pages to go across and tell your person on the other side what you're going to ask. Maybe having the House leaders meet the day before to make sure they don't embarrass each other on the public stage. They're in on it. We saw that even when they stood up and they gave a standing ovation to a Nazi. Well, I'll tell you what, if a PPCer ever stood up or was associated with giving a standing ovation for a Nazi, what do you think they would do to us? And then it's just all of a sudden the speaker comes out, oh, I'm the one who brought him in. Well, that's bull. He fell on his sword because the whole Parliament was guilty. And some people say, well, the Liberals brought him in there. Well, they said who that guy backed up. So it tells you that they don't know their history, number one. And the other thing is They thought we would never know. A foreign media broadcaster broke that story. So I think everything is scripted. Right now in Canada, nothing is by chance in politics. There are no coincidences. Everything is strictly guided, planned. Unless someone goes rogue, there's a script there, and Canadians have to understand that. What goes on in front of you on your TV is like a bunch of actors in Hollywood. It's 100%. It's as far as I'm concerned, that's what we're watching. They tip each other off. They know who's going where and what's going to happen. They manipulate the outcomes by getting on each other's teams, and they're on the same team. They're a uni party. They're controlled. I believe it. We're watching actors in motion. We see backbenchers, I think, that are left alone because they don't get to speak. If you notice how our parties pick and choose 2 or 3 members of parliament who get to be out in the limelight all the time, but all the backbenchers, they're told, you're not speaking publicly. By the way, when you get home, don't talk about any issues. Here's your generic emails for your office for anything that comes through. Don't have any opinion. If you want to ask or say something about what you believe in, you better clear it through headquarters first. It's all about that. And Canadians understand that. Please figure it out. You're watching what they do. How can it be that we have a non-elected World Economic Forum 3-country resident as our prime minister right now, when 3 months ago we had the guy on the ropes and the opposition was at 60 or 70% guaranteed of a majority government, and all of a sudden, look where we're at. Carney's on the plane headed for France. How does that happen in 90 days? You should be asking yourself that question. How does it happen that the media attacks the PPC all the time? Other than that, there's no other press coverage. Because it's corrupt, folks. They're bought and paid for. From the pollsters to the media. That's what they are in this country. And we got to come to terms with it. Your neighbor is thinking about voting purple. They are. The media will tell you they're not. But I'm going to tell you they are. And I worked my way on 2.8% 2019, 11.2 in the election in Sarnia, Lambton in the last one. And I plan on getting more. I put a call out to do sign reservations already. And my list is growing big time of people that weren't on my old list. So I'm telling you right now, your neighbor's thinking about voting purple. Don't let these controlled politicians who are against the public tell you who to vote for through polls, because that's what they do. The polls come out, oh, look, and I predicted it. I said when I predicted Mark Carney's going to be the next prime minister or leader of the Liberal Party, and then I said, and everybody's like, well, no way, Trudeau's done. They're done. I said, no, they're not. They're going to even the polls up. They're going to even the polls up to take the PPC option away. And they've done it. They've done it in the last 3 weeks. And Canadians, you better open your eyes. You better understand you're listening to a script. And that is what's going on in our country right now. And we are in big trouble. But the only way out of it is to recognize it and take the power back. And that's by supporting the People's Party. We're the ones who are going to stand up and do what's right. Other than that, I think Canada's in great shape, Paul.
Yeah, we have a beautiful country. I mean, Vancouver is probably the most beautiful. You got the mountains and the ocean. Oh my God. I'm from the East Coast, so Peyman has a whole different opposite view, except we both had salt water. That smell of salt water. I do miss it. But I've never been in the West Coast. Have you always lived there your whole life, Peyman? In Vancouver?
Good question. We landed in Montreal and then Ottawa. We were in Ottawa for a year. I was in Vancouver for 10 years. I was in Toronto for 4 years. So about 75% of my time has been on the West Coast.
See, one thing folks at home need to know is that if these guys all get seats, they're not going to change. They're actually going to answer questions. If they're asked, like in Parliament, they don't even answer a question. They can be asked a direct question 10 times, And I've seen it. I can't even watch Parliament anymore. It just drives me. It makes me want to break my television like Elvis. But at least I know there's somebody that will not change if they have a seat. But if you're voted in and get a seat, I don't think the constituents would have any problem with your vote, with how you vote, because you'll actually tell them what they're voting about, what you're voting about. You will inform the constituents and the voters, let them know exactly what the bills are. And that's one thing people would really need to see and really benefit from. Something that we're not getting. We're only getting information from the media, but just one seat would do it. One voice is all you would need to be able to just say, this is what this bill is about. This is what this bill is really about. So I'm grateful to all of you for putting yourselves and your lives in the spotlight to try to save this country. Any final words you'd like to give us, Arnold, before we finish off our broadcast?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with politicians is they go from the riding and they go to Ottawa or Queen's Park and they go to represent the people, but when they come back representing the government. They forget it's we the people, not we the government. Kind of deal. Like going back to what Brian was saying there, I remember watching CPAC, and there's a guy that called in and said, "Can you tell me who the constituents are that Klaus Schwab and WF has infiltrated in Parliament?" And the freaking Speaker of the House lied to every Canadian, said, "I'm sure it was a good question, but it was garbly and I couldn't get the question." Yet it was perfect English. Yet he lied. And I remember when Andrew Scheer was in Sault Ste. Marie, I asked him about that. I said, "What's going on here?" So I think it was one of your constituents that answered that, Andrew. He goes, "I'm not sure if I knew about this." I said, you lied just like he lied. You knew about it because you get all the transcripts. And that's how dishonest our government is. And just one more point. People ask me, why is Canada not like the States? And the way I said, well, I think the difference between the States and the States are more patriotic. And I'm not putting Canada down when I say this, but the Canadians had the bomb effect. They had Pearl Harbor. They had a bomb actually drop on their country at a time when they thought they're in war in Europe, in World War II, whatever. They'll never come over here, and it happened. But in Canada, we haven't had that actual physical bomb. So we don't know what it's like to actually get bombed by a foreign entity. And I think it's almost like that's what we need for Canadians, is to have something like that land in the backyard. See what all four of us are talking about. This is what we've been telling you. Now you've actually seen it with your own eyes. So I think that's but like I say, it was just three strong. Well, Peyman, Brian, and I, and Paul, thank you for putting this event on. But it shows Canadians that we will fight to the death for them, to do whatever we can. So.
Well, again, I would like to thank you for running. Anybody that knows or has friends in Sault Ste. Marie, Arnold is the candidate there. And you can find him on Facebook as well. And up next, we have Peyman, who you can find on Rumble and X and YouTube, and also on Facebook. Oh my goodness, the internet's been real fun with me tonight. It's really challenging me, trying to get Peyman into the big box here. Oh, there we go. So thank you, Peyman, for coming on tonight. It's always a pleasure. Like, you are trying to get the word out with inlay terms, and you're also doing multiple podcasts, trying to get information out. So for that, I want to thank you, and I let you know that I value your time. and your work for this country. Any final words before we go to Brian?
Sure, I'll keep it brief. Paul, I wanted to thank you very much for bringing us on. You're giving us the opportunity to spread our message to everybody listening. If you have this perception that you are a small individual and you can't really do anything, you're powerless, look to Mr. Everton. He is one person and he's created a podcast and he's reaching out and spreading a message of truth. Nothing is stopping you from doing the same thing. If you're not technically savvy, if you just don't have the time, you can still get one or two of your friends together, sit down and explain to them what we've said today. That's in my opinion, that's how we get through this. This is how we get around the media, by having a radically decentralized media system. Again, Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you, Peyman. I would agree 100% with that. It is word of mouth, talking to your friends, let them know. Thank you, Brian, also for coming on tonight. Any final words that you'd like to leave us with?
Sure. Thanks, Paul, again, for having us on. I'll echo what Peyman said about, the podcast, speaking up, doing what's right for the country. And, we all know what's right. We know what's going on right now with the pulling back, not negotiating. We can tell. Canadians know what's right, and they need to do what's right. But at the same time, I think I want to take the time to thank the folks that have actually taken another path. They've chosen and chose to listen to the facts, and now they're ready to leave, or they have left one of the mainstream parties to join the People's Party. I have a lot of them in my riding that have done that. Some of them, I shared this out tonight on a particular site. I'm hoping that those people are watching. I want to thank you for that. And I know what it meant, and I know what it means to have to walk away from an investment when it seems like you've been rooked. So it's not an easy thing to do that. So I want to thank the people out there that are in the trenches, that are seeing through the lies of the uni party, really, of the Liberals, Conservatives, NDP, and Greens right now. It's not all about that. It's about making sure we do what's right and doing the right thing. And I said that that's going to be one of the mottos in my campaigns going forward when the writ drops. And it is, do the right thing. If we do the right thing, we win. And tonight, you listen to the gentleman on here, you look at Paul going out of your way, spending your time to spread that message and get us all together to get it out there and create this content that people can watch for weeks, forever. And you listen to the gentlemen who are running with the People's Party and how genuine they are. And we need your help. We need you to stand up and help us out there. Spread the word. Put a sign in your yard. Talk to your neighbor. That's how we're going to get the snowball effect rolling. And that's it for me, Paul. Thank you so much. And guys, thanks a lot for coming on. I always like being around both of you two. I've been around in a podcast before. I've been on your show, Peyman. But thank you guys so much. I couldn't be more proud to stand beside a bunch of patriotic Canadians like yourselves, and keep on keeping on, because I think we're making headway, and I think we're making big time headway. So that's it for me, Paul.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone at home, for watching. Please share writings, because that's where it really counts. Because we want to let people know that they do have a choice, and the media is not going to tell you about it. But thank you all. Have a great night. I'm going to have another show tomorrow. We'll hope to see you then. And I hope to see you all again on the Truth Table.